Formulas are a very important part of not just maths but mathematical literacy as well. And that's because even though mathematical literacy is a practical subject, it doesn't involve a lot of memorizing, but it involves a lot of application. So, knowing how to use formulas and understanding how to rearrange them or how to manipulate them will help you improve your marks. So, it's necessary for you to know how to use the correct formulas, how to use those formulas correctly, how to substitute values correctly, and then how to rearrange formulas when when you need to do so. So if you don't know how to apply this knowledge properly, then almost every topic in mathematical literacy becomes a problem, because now in finance there are formulas, in measurements there are formulas, in maps and plans and representations there are formulas. So now I want you to be confident that you can solve any problem, whether it has a formula or not, and not panic when you see formulas written in a way that you're not used to. So that is why I felt the need to make this lesson. I need you to understand formulas. I need you to understand how to use formulas. And I need you to understand how to manipulate those formulas. So let's have a look at our learning objectives. By the end of this lesson, I want you to be able to explain what a formula is. I want you to properly understand what substitution is all about and how to substitute correctly using formulas, as well as how to manipulate or rearrange formulas to make different variables subjects. So these are our learning objectives. This is what I want you to understand by the end of this lesson. So what is a formula? A formula is simply a rule that tells us how to calculate something. So a formula uses letters, and these letters are called variables. So usually these letters can stand for any number, and we call them variables because they can change. So formulas use letters and then symbols. Symbols are operation signs. So this can be, for an example, an addition sign, a subtraction sign, or even a division sign. And then the last thing that formulas use is constants. So these are numbers that stay the same and do not change. So a formula, to recap, is a rule that tells us how to calculate something, and it uses three things. 1, letters. 2, symbols. 3, numbers. That is what a formula is. So let's make an example with the formula for the area of a rectangle. The formula would be A is equals to L times W, which means that for us to be able to calculate the area of a rectangle, we would need to multiply its length by its width. So you see how this tells us what we need to do in order for us to be able to find an answer. It's simply a rule that tells us how to calculate area. So you now understand what a formula is. Let us look at substitution. So when we substitute, we just replace the letters or the variables in a formula with numbers. So when we say we are substituting, we're just saying that we're replacing the letters in a formula with numbers. And then how do we substitute? When we substitute, we use the same formula, and then we only change the values so that we can finally calculate the answer. Okay, so let me give you a step-by-step guide to substitution. So how do we substitute? Step number 1, you write down the formula. Step number 2, you replace each variable or letter with the given values. So number 1, you write down the formula. Number 2, you replace the variables or the letters in the formula with the given values. And then number 3, you calculate your answer using the correct order of operations or BODMAS. So that is how you substitute. So following these rules, let us calculate using one example. So this is a perfectly drawn rectangle, and we want the area. So following the step-by-step guide that I just gave you, the first step that we will apply to calculate the area of this rectangle is that we will write down the formula. That's the first step. The second step is that we should replace the variables or the letters with the values that we have been given. And then the last step is that we should calculate using BODMAS. So here there's only one operation, which is multiplication, so we will just multiply and then get our final answer. So that is how you substitute. Now when substituting, you should ensure that you follow these rules. Number 1, you should always write the formula first. Number 2, where it is necessary, you should put brackets around substituted values. Number 3, you should include units if they are required. Like I just showed you when I was calculating the area, I included the centimeter units. And then the fourth rule is that you should use the correct order, or let me rather say you should follow the correct order of operations, which is BODMAS. And the last rule is that you should not change the structure of the formula, because if you change the formula, you will get a different answer, and that answer will be wrong. When we're talking about manipulating formulas, we're simply talking about changing the formula to make a different variable the subject. So whenever we are asked to find, calculate, or determine either a missing value, or let's say, just as I've been showing you the example of an area, if you have, let's say, the subject, which is the area, and you have the length, but you don't have the breadth, how do you calculate the breadth? The formula is the same, but now the subject is different. What we're calculating is different. We're no longer calculating area, we are now calculating the breadth using the same formula. So in order for us to be able to manipulate formulas, we just use inverse operations to rearrange those formulas. I'll show you just now. Okay, I said for us to be able to manipulate or rearrange formulas, we use inverse operations. So when we're using inverse operations, this means that we do the opposite of what we usually do. So let's take, for example, uh, this is the example. What we usually do, the normal order of operation here is that we multiply the length, the breadth, and the height to find the volume. But now what happens when the subject or what we are calculating is not the volume? What happens if the subject is different? Then we will have to manipulate the formula or use inverse operations. So here, let me show you how we do this. So remember the rules or the step-by-step guide I gave you. Number one, when we're substituting, we write in the formula first. Number two, we change the quantities with we change the variables with the quantities that we have been given. So here it's 25 times breadth times height, which is 10. You can write the units, I'm just choosing not to. So normally, in order for us to find the volume, we multiply, but now we don't have the volume. So what do? We do the inverse of multiplying. The inverse is what? The opposite. So the opposite of multiplying is what? It's division. So we simply move this here, and then it will be 360 divided by 25, and here we're just left with breadth and the height. What's happening with my phone? Okay, so 360 divided by 25 is what? It's 14.4, and then we are still left with the breadth times height. So we just want the breadth. So what will we do? The inverse of multiplication again, which is division. So we will say 14.4 divided by 10, and then it will give us the breadth. So this is 1.44, and that is our breadth. So that's how we just play around with formulas. So in order for us to be able to test if this is accurate, you'll just, let me just wipe. Let us see if this is accurate. The normal order of business, I don't know if I should put it like that. If we want the volume, we multiply these variables. So now we calculated and it gave us 1.44. So now let us see if we say 25 times 1.44 times 10, what does it give us? It's 25 times 1.44 times 10, it gives us 360. So this is the 360 that we have here. So that's just how you rearrange or play around with formulas to find a different subject. I really hope that this lesson was insightful and valuable. So these are some of the mistakes that you should avoid making when you are using formulas to calculate answers. So you should make sure that you don't change the formula, because if you change the way the formula is structured, you will get the wrong answer. You should not skip any step. and where the subject has changed, you should make sure that you do not solve without rearranging or manipulating the formula first.